Yeah, so Father Christmas is back. Hopefully he might have some presents for us. I'm not sure. Not likely? Let's have a look then. What do you think that this bit of code returns at the moment? And then we're going to build on from our let's call this example and then use some arrow functions rather than our standard traditional function declarations and see how that changes things. So yeah. I told you, Max. Yeah. It's present equals nothing. So we've got a default value here of nothing. So he hasn't got any presents at the moment. So therefore, when we invoke user1.getFullName, we come into this function. That function returns our template literal. Anything weird about that output? What's that going to look like? So, well, the bit I've highlighted, yes, the return statement. So it's a template literal. What will it say?
Well, that greeting seems a bit suspect, but you should say "Ho, Merry Christmas, Father Christmas,
So
if that greeting variable is actually true.
When encryption works, does it get full name?
yeah, down the bottom, but I was just zooming in a bit for you. So I've done user1.getFullName. Yeah, user1.getFullName. And it should return that. So Max is curious whether this greeting is accessible. What do we think?
I think so, it's global.
Yeah, so we've defined greeting on a global level. So, yeah, so we should have ho ho ho, Merry Christmas from Father Christmas. Your present is nothing. Sad face. However, we've got lots of extra space here. Does that get included in the final result? Ooh. Yeah. So because our template literal's gone over 2 lines, just a little warning about template literals, then if you're tabbing out your code to make it look nice, to increase the elegance perhaps by doing that, then the template is going to capture all of those tab characters or all of those spaces as well. So, yeah, there's not many easy ways around that. You either have to split up your template literals so they're not multi-line, or you have to stick them right over there at the edge of the page, which doesn't look very elegant. However, then you would have no extra spaces. Anyway, that's a little bit of a side thing, but just while I was writing this example, I thought I better mention that in case you wonder why you're getting lots of extra characters sometimes when you use template literals. Alright, what happens if I change this function into an arrow function? Anything? Are they the same? Aren't functions and arrow functions the same? Most of the time they are, but not always. Yeah, there are some slight differences depending on how we use them. Using them with let's call this is one of those differences. So what do we think this one returns? And by the way, if I put a greeting here, you should know this, but if I put a greeting there, is it going to say hello or is it going to say ho ho ho? Still ho ho ho? Yeah, so if we wanted that greeting, we would have to do this dot greeting. Any other differences, or is it just going to say hello rather than ho ho ho? Let's run it. Oh, so we could do ho ho ho. We ignored the hello greeting, and it says Merry Christmas from undefined undefined. Why? This dot first name and this dot last name, isn't it pointing there? What do you think we will get if I console.log this? Which you can do at any stage, by the way. If you're not sure what the value of this is, then you can log it. Oh, interesting, Mumtahim. Mumtahim's gone for window. So I just wrote a sentence there, yeah? Right? The value of this, oops, inside of the get full name, maybe I'll just put arrow function, is someone said global, that's interesting, I'll pick up on that in a second. The value of this inside of the arrow function is, Mumtahim was right, it's an object, the window object. Now why is that? That's what we need to try and explain, yeah? So, when it was a normal function, the value, sorry I've lost where my function starts. When we just had a normal function, the value of this inside the function is what? What object? User one object. Fantastic. Yeah. It just says object, which is a bit annoying, but it is the user one object. If I did this dot first name, hopefully that would prove it that it's going to say father. Yeah? Okay. Can we do this not name? Does it actually store a name of the object? Let's see. No. Alright. Right, so coming back to my point then. So when we have an arrow function, what does it do? Why does it ignore user one? So with the function, it just said, well, if you use the function keyword, then this is set to whatever object invokes get full name. However, if you use an arrow function, that doesn't apply. What it does is it looks at your current context, if you like, your current execution context. And because we haven't created a new execution context with this function, it just goes one further up the chain. So it ignores user one, where get full name was defined. And because this is an arrow function, it just jumps one level further up. And what's further up than user one? Well, window, which is why it takes that. This example will be a bit clearer if we begin to nest some objects inside of user 2. So that's what we're going to try and do now. I'm going to get rid of the log. We can add some presents in later. For now I'm just going to stick it all on one line. We know what it says now. And yeah, so here, how should we do it? Let's have a look. Yeah, let's do it like that. So inside of get full name to begin with, let's just write a normal function. However, this function will contain user2. User2 can have all of these same properties. So user2 is going to be an object. Let's get rid of the console for now so we've got a bit more room. So user2 is going to be an object with the same sort of properties, first name, last name, and I've never met a Father Christmas who says howdy, but hey, this one can. Let's put Papa Noel back in there, just to differentiate. Papa Noel says howdy. That amuses me anyway. Get full name. Yep, so we need a get full name function as well. And this time, the get full name function, well, firstly, we'd put it as a normal function. Let's just get rid of the present for now. Guess we can change that. And so that bit is inside of get full name. And then we want this function, the user1.getFullName, to return something as well. So let's make that return the getFullName function. Because this is what we want at the end of it. Yeah, we want what's on line 13, that string. So let's return user2.getFullName. Let's just return the function. Where have I messed up? Comma, comma, function. Identifier. So just because of all this. No. Help me spot the errors, guys. So we've got user 1, it's got 1, 2, 3, 4 property. That's right. User 2 is inside of user1.getFullName. That's what we want to do at this stage.
But you've got a comma after the user2 object.
Where?
After the end of the object.
There?
Is that supposed to be there?
No. Wait,
Semicolon.
so something over here. Template literal ends. That closes user 2.
Second semicolon there. Like, if you use it to object, where does it end?
Oh yeah, user 2 should end there. Thank you. That was it. Cool. So that ends user 2. That ends user 1. What does that one do? Okay, that ends. Sorry, that ends the getFullName function. That ends user 1. Yeah. Okay. Okay. Good. Right. So all we've got is user 2 nested inside of the getFullName function in user 1. That's all we've done. Yeah. So if I call user 1.getFullName, then what are we going to get returned?
Oh, I see, it's that function.
User 1's Father Christmas, user 2 is Papa Noel. What's that? Long function. So when we invoke user1, that creates user2.
It's going to say howdy from Papa Noel.
Your present is blah blah blah. Yeah?
Yes.
Okay, so you think that let's call this is pointing to user 2, even though user 1 invoked it there.
Oh, sorry.
But because user 2 invoked it there, you're saying it points to user 2.
Sorry. The other one. I didn't notice the user one dot. No. The other thing. It's going to say hello from Father Christmas something.
Uh-huh. Who votes for Father Christmas? Hands up. Okay, and who votes for Papa Noel? Who is just abstaining? Everyone. Fair enough. So it's Papa Noel.
Wait, it looks like it's printed right. How do you know which is the real one?
How do we know which is the real one? Because if I clear the console, it prints Papa Noel. Present's undefined because I didn't give a present, right?
That's defined inside the function. Okay.
Yeah, so user 2 invoked the getFullName function that returns our string, didn't it? So that's why it's pointing to user 2. But because it's nested, it's going to be quite hard, I guess, for me to get access to Father Christmas. I could do user1.getFullName. Could I do that? And then I call it, and I'm trying to set the value of this to definitely be user1. I want Father Christmas data, right? I'm throwing a little tantrum like a kid at Christmas. I really want Father Christmas to give me some presents rather than Papa Noel. I wouldn't be fussy personally, but I'd take any presents I can get. But if I do that, is it going to return Father Christmas? So I'm now trying to force the value of let's call this to be user1. So you're saying because here user 2 is the value of let's call this, then it doesn't really matter what I do in this one, right? Surely that was already user 1 because user 1 invoked it. So if we do that, whoops. Oh, what have I done wrong? Let's have a look. User 1 dot call is not a function. Yep, sorry. So I did the same thing, right? We can't invoke it. However, now we still get Papa Noel. So we would need to do our call here, wouldn't we? If we really wanted to use user 1. But now we've sort of lost the functionality that we can't get access to Papa Noel now. Yeah, we're sort of stuck in this little, it's one or the other. And it becomes a bit confusing. However, we can use arrow functions to be a bit selective with what data we want. Because remember when I changed it to an arrow function before, it went one further up the chain, didn't it? It went to window. So if that's an arrow function now, what will it return? Will it return Papa Noel or Father Christmas? We think Father Christmas, right? If that pattern holds and it just says what's the value of this? Well, if you were a function, I'd say it was user 2, but because you're an arrow function, I'm going to go up. I'm going to take user 1 as my value of let's call this. Run it now. And we do get Father Christmas. Yeah, so if we've used an arrow function, it ignores this context, the user2 context, or doesn't create one, and goes back up here. So where did we create this new context using the function keyword? Well, we created that within user1. That's where we created the new function context. If I did arrow function there, what happens? What's the value of first name and last name? Still Father Christmas? Why? We've used an arrow function. So this has now gone up to window, and therefore it's undefined, undefined. Yeah? Undefined from undefined, undefined.
Wait, so arrow function always is just the window, like of this inside of an arrow function, or always just reference?
Well, it depends what's further up the chain, right? So we proved that by having a function keyword there. We had a function defined inside of user1. So therefore the value of, let's call this down here, this dot, what am I trying to do? This dot first name I do. So if inside of an arrow function the value of, let's call this, was always window, then that should be undefined, right? By your logic. Zara, yeah, is that what you're saying? Right. So you said something like, does that mean that the value of, let's call this, inside of arrow functions is always window?
Did you say it's one out?
Yeah, it's just one up, yeah? Where we created the new context. So writing the keyword function creates a new execution context. You have one execution context when you load up JavaScript in the browser. That's window to begin with. Every time you create a function, it creates a new execution context.
That's what they call execution context.
Yep.
How catchy.
I know, right? Easy to remember term. So therefore, let's call this, we'll go up the chain until it finds a function being declared. And where it does find a function being declared, it sets the value of, let's call this, to that. So this should now console.log father again, and we get our Father Christmas message. And you could keep this going as many times as you wanted, yeah? So we could change the outer one. Maybe change the inner one. And then you could do the whole thing again if you really had some strange API data, right? Which Max is dealing with at the moment. Guess what comes next? User 3. This is like when Father Christmas does his Superman bit, right? Who are you in real life? Yeah, Chris Kringle. The greeting? No idea. He's incognito, nothing. And then we can do the get full name. Once more. Oh, did I get rid of it? Damn. So, get full name. This can just be an arrow function again. Don't even need that, right? Let's just do a template literal. Okay, so finally we can return what? If I want access to the first name and the last name of any of these objects. Remember what we did before? Obviously not. Good lunch, was it, guys? You're asleep. Sorry, not user 2, user 3, yeah? So we can return this function. If I made the same mistake again, yes. Those two. I think we need one more return statement for our user 2. Where does that end? Let's get full name ending. User 2. So we can return user 2.fullname. Obviously this is demo purposes. If you take this too far it just becomes a bit mind-boggling, and hopefully you're not going to write code like this. So user 2.fullname, sorry, get full name. Alright, oh, it was already there. Didn't realise. So the question is now, which one are we going to get? Father Christmas, Papa Noel, or Kris Kringle? We're still doing user 1.getFullName to start the chain, yeah? So Max has gone for let's call this has been set to Papa Noel, which is user 2. People agree, disagree? Just want me to run it? So why Max? Why Papa Noel?
Because if we're going for the flat arrows, those were obviously to use the...
Yep, so arrow function there. Ignore Kris Kringle. What's user 2 got? Arrow function or normal function? Regular function. So therefore, the value of this is set to that object. Yeah, user 2 was the object that declared or invoked a new function. So user 2 created its own execution context. That's what we're going to use as the value of let's call this. Whether we had an arrow function up here or not makes no difference really, does it? We'll find out in a minute whether that makes a difference. Oh, have I done something wrong again? User2.getFullName is not a function. User2.getFullName function. What is it then? Let's have a look. User2.getFullName is just undefined. User2.getFullName. Capital F missing. First name is not defined. Oh yeah, we're talking about this all the time and we missed it off. Finally, we get Papa Noel for the reasons we said, yeah? Look for where that function is, and we know that that is where let's call this has been set. how about if this wasn't an arrow function? Should be the same. Yeah, because let's call this is set here, isn't it? So we're looking for the first execution context above then. So it should still be Papa Noel. Should never even consider Father Christmas. Yeah, so that's the same. We'd only have access to Father Christmas if that one there was an arrow function. Yeah. So that's it really, and that's why when we're using callbacks and things like that, that we use arrow functions. Because if we used a regular function, it will create a new execution context. So let's see an example of it going wrong. Let's open up some, I'll just open up my version of CodeFlix, I think. I'm sure there's an event listener or something like that in there that we can work with. Projects. All right. Does Gallery have one? Do we use event listers in CodeFlix? I can't remember now. Open folder. Let's go in there. Yeah, so like all of these events. So that's just a function, isn't it? And that means that it doesn't create its own execution context, so it goes up one level higher. If we did something really weird, like doing a function in there to return that, it's just not gonna be happy, right? The value of this is no longer gonna be set to the class-based component. It's gonna be set to whatever object invoked this callback. So that might be the form, it might be something in the window, I'm not really sure, but the point is we've created a brand new execution context there. We don't want that. Yeah, we want this to make sure it's pointing to our React component. Yeah, to our app. So that's why we need to use things like callbacks. So that we just say, work within the context of this component, please, and then look for the send data. So send data there is that one. If I did a brand new function, we have no idea whether the send data method is attached to that, the object that invoked that function or not. So we've lost our this binding. Alright, I feel if I didn't lose you from the start, I've definitely lost you now. So any questions, guys? Alright, I'll stop it there. Ask me questions outside the workshop if